actually lost power to my boiler today, so it was a little bit cold, and had to deal with that. And actually, started on dropped my brother off at the airport. My brother was in town for the last few weeks. Haven't seen him in a while. I got a time, got some quality time with him, man. So that was cool. We wrapped on the way to the airport, so it was cool, man.
Always good to see family.
Yes, we're gonna ask. We having some technical difficulties. Is it possible for everyone to mute their lines, please?
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, man, my day was, I had a different day too.
Okay, tell me.
I had a different day too. Nothing major, man, just life stressors, man, I still haven't seen a day better than today, so I'm gonna go ahead and rock out and deal with it.
Okay, you said you haven't seen a day better than today?
Yeah, man.
Explain that.
It's another day, man, to get up and try again.
Okay.
Try to do it again,
It got it, it's just a humor because, even starting this show off.
Right,
We had some little technical difficulties, but a couple monkeys don't stop the show.
Exactly. And I'm excited about this topic, man. Self-expression. Is this the true you? Self-expression, man, is I think it's a big piece, not only again for certain communities, but all people. Because again, going back to my generation, even your generation, I think hip hop. If we can maybe start there, hip hop is, as much as I like it and I respect what it does, I think it gives people who don't really know who they are avenue to be whoever they want to be.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just thinking, I've been around. I think I've been around since the evolution of hip hop. Going back to the '70s when Curtis Blow and Grandmaster Flash and all these guys were coming out to scene to where it is in 2015. That's very interesting that you say that. I remember at the beginning, in the '80s. Early '80s, you had, where everybody was different. And, when coming back to self-expression, when I was in high school, everybody was different. Like, you didn't really want, somebody to have the gear that you had. If you had a polo shirt, if somebody had the same polo shirt, you would go home and exchange it. Or if you had, you was the first to have shoes, versus nowadays, it's like plagiarism.
Right.
Everybody looks the same. And in particular, and no knocking on the SAG, but I'm amazed how the whole world wears sags. You know what I mean? Like, you're expressing yourself through SAG, and it's like you have 500 million people sagging. You know what I mean? So you self-express, and that's a form of self-expression. That's your fashion, but it's not really you.
Right. That's a big thing too. And you gotta, for the whole day, I've been thinking you gotta really watch how you express yourself, because your self-expression, the way you express yourself, can be detrimental or developmental. You know what I mean?
Detrimental or developmental.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay. For example, again, I think we all had that period where, I was trying to fit in for a certain period of time. I think it was detrimental because it wasn't necessarily who I was. But when I started getting comfortable with who I was, expressing myself that way, I started developing. You know what I mean?
Okay. And that's interesting, man. I know all my Lincoln Knights who's on the phone. Thank you again for joining in. But I remember I went out through the great Lincoln University. And I was a little bit older. I was your non-traditional student. I went up there. I was much older. But I think hip hop was changing in the early '90s. I guess that was going into the thuggism. Whether it's the Tupac Shakur, the LA hip hop came on the scene. So I remember I used to, I came from the hood, so I remember what I used to do in particular when it came time for like breaks, whether it was Thanksgiving break or whether it was Christmas break, when people was packing up and going home. And I remember I used to sit around because my ride was always coming a little bit late. But I used to sit around and watch people's parents come and pick them up. You know what I mean?
Right.
And one of these, I mean, some of these dudes, some of these cats up in Lincoln, man, they should like, look real grimy and sagging and nappy headed.
Right.
And your dad is pulling up in a 5 Series Benz. You know what I mean? So they was expressing themselves like they hard, they thugged out, and they they rich boys. Or they rich girls. I'm like, wow, that's how you expressing yourself versus me. I come from this area, well, I come from this particular environment, and that ain't what I wanted to express. That wasn't what I tried to give out to my community. And that was like the first one, while we talking about that, was very different to me. Like, why do you want to be something that you're not?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I would think that you will be happy. I'm looking at them like, wow, you got a pops one, but you have a strong foundation. Why are you expressing yourself in that fashion of being a thug or being portraying a whole persona that you're not?
You ever seen the movie ATL?
ATL, yeah.
That was the kind of the whole crux, you know what I'm saying, in that movie. And Nunu she was from like the suburban community, but she would come in the hood, you know what I'm saying, and act like she was something else. And then you had, what was his name? What was the cat's name? Like, everybody know who I'm talking about, but he kind of looked like you too, you know what I'm saying? And he had that same attitude. He's like, I come from the hood. This thing, he told her, he's like, you know what I'm saying, you got this paint up in your house. Like, nobody in the hood got this type of paint up in the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I would love to come from something like this.
Right.
Why do so many of us, people in general, like, why is it so much more, why you get a pat on the back for kind of being something that's more negative?
I mean, I think that the media controls our images, our imagery, of what they want us to portray. And I don't think that we realize how much power, how much influence the media have over us. But one of the things, I'm gonna go back through it before we build on that. When you was talking about how self-expression, I wrote down a little note that self-expression sometimes contribute to other people's perceptions.
Yes.
You understand? So
yes.
In particular, I remember a couple of months ago, I'm in out this Panera Bread, and these young brothers come in. These 3 young gentlemen come in, and they was actually filling out job applications. So the young guys, I'm looking at them, and I knew, different, about 15, 16-year-olds, but they all come in sagging. You understand? But you could see that wasn't even who they were. You understand? So I walked up to them, and I'm like, excuse me, young guys, I'm glad y'all are coming to fill out the jobs, but I'm like, look at y'all.
Right.
So if I was a manager, you understand, I would automatically, the impression y'all giving me is that y'all thugs or knuckleheads.
Right.
As soon as they open their mouth, yes sir, no sir, I'm like, wow.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're expressing yourself in a way that's not you.
Right.
But, my perception is going to be of something that doesn't even fit the bill.
Right.
But, that's why we have to be conscious of who you are.
Right.
And when you express yourself, when you walk outside the door, and some of us want to, show the world something and teach us on. We do what we do. But you have to be very careful how people are going to perceive that. You know what I'm saying? And to some of our youth, that's really hurting them more than helping them.
Right. I think that's why family development is so important, to challenge all of that. Because some people, again, going to the crux of your upcoming book, character. Some people don't even really have enough character or desire. They don't even care about how you perceive them. Because if you have care for how somebody perceive you, you're going to be a little bit more conscientious of the energy that you're putting on. So the fact that you even went up to them, so part of you know what you're doing, but you don't really expect somebody to come up and say nothing to you. You know what I mean?
Right,
but you gotta have more conscientiousness. That's even a word. You gotta be more conscientious about the energy that you are putting off. If you do desire to do some certain things in your life.
Well, I was just looking. We talk about self-expression. You know what I mean? Not only the hip hop, but hip hop has contributed or hip hop culture to sports.
Right.
But I'm just laughing because self-expression. All these tattoos that people are getting.
Right.
So I'm having a conversation with my daughter and my nieces and sons or whatever you. They talk about this is my way of expressing myself. Is that you, huh?
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? That tattoo is you. So you thought of that. You know what I mean? That's a great. You thought of that. Well, I'm a freak and I'm gonna put it on the back of my ear. It's like that makes you different. But I'm expressing myself. You know what I mean? But it's tattoos is hot.
Right,
you know what I mean? When Dennis Rodman was rocking tattoos 20 years ago, that's a form of self-expression. Or I'm sorry, no, I can't tell people how to express themselves. But I'm just thinking you're really plagiarizing. Yeah. You understand? However, this is coming back to this hip hop culture. Right. Even every rapper nowadays, you got to have a whole sleeve of tattoos on your arm to be a rapper. Yeah. Is that coming back to your point? Is that really you?
Is that really you? That's funny, man. This is on topic, off topic. This dude I knew on my basketball team, he had a friend, and he wanted to be different, so he got a tattoo on his lower back. Hold up, man. He got a tattoo on his lower back.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Hey, we used to get on him, man.
Oh man.
I want to be different, but in a way I respect him, but not
expressing yourself. Self-expression, but my perception, you know what I mean? You got to be very careful by my perception now that you wanted to show the world that you're a little bit different. But this self-expression, back to this hip hop. And music, music period, and how we express ourselves, and it can be good. You understand? We want to make sure that there are some, I think we just talked about before we went on air, J. Cole. You know what I mean? Everybody talking about this J. Cole album that just coming out, and how J. Cole.
It's a hot album.
Yeah, I haven't bought it yet. Now, everybody keep talking about that, but it's a whole different. He going against the mode. But he's expressing himself, on some real stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we don't. And you have to be comfortable in your own skin. Mm-hmm. So, I think that the most important thing, I love that commercial, the Dove commercial that's out nowadays where it talks about I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Ooh.
I mean, so before you start, we were just talking to our youngin today about, self-expression. But first and foremost, you need to be comfortable in your own skin.
That's where it starts out, man. Mm-hmm. That is. Mm-hmm. Being comfortable in your own skin. Mm-hmm. I think that I didn't really become comfortable in my own skin until I was honestly 23 years old. And and I think that one of my points I wanted to talk about tonight is how you take on other people's personalities. Whenever you're not comfortable in your own skin, you'll try on other people's personalities.
Yes.
There's in psychology, there's a guy named Eric Erickson. He talks about how you remember psychosocial development. And he said that at the adolescent stage between 12 and 18, I would extend it to maybe 21 now. He said
30.
Maybe
45. You know what I mean? I see 45-year-olds sagging. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sorry. You stopped at 18. I go, I'm sorry, brother, for interrupting. You know what I mean? I should have respectfully asked to jump in, but I thought,
oh man,
that was premature. 18 premature.
But he talks about how that's the age where it's important because up till that age, like your life depends on what's done to you. From that period on, it depends on what you do. You know what I'm saying? And he said that like you have an identity crisis, and if you don't resolve that, that stays with you. So that's why you have some 45-year-olds that are still sagging, still hustling, still talking like they was back in the day because they haven't resolved that period from adolescence.
You said that from 12 to 18 is when they developing it?
Well, he says from 12 to 18 is when is the adolescence period. But like you and I say, I think that's because 40 is the new 20. Right.
You talked about a couple of shows ago. Yeah. 40 is the 40 new 20. Really?
Right.
That's but I'm like, you figure like me and my guys, I'm pretty sure a couple of them are on the phone right now, but a lot of us talk about our introduction to hip hop. We're talked about you to, told you to be unique, you know what I mean, or told, tell you to be different. And I guess those are forms, if you look at somebody else, you're like, I'm different than him. I don't want to be the same as him because I'm really I need to figure out who I am. But that gives you a sense of, who you start to tap into what talents and what's the gift that God gave you.
Right.
You understand? So, we coming back to, before you get to that self-expression, but I'm looking at those years, he was saying the 12 to 18, Dr. Erickson talked about 12 to 18, but nowadays, these kids going up to 12, right. You know what I mean? What is being pumped into them?
Exactly.
You understand? And no knock to my my people's on the phone, but you know, I look at you know, some of our kids, you know, from being a former teacher, when you know, what are you telling your young girls when you putting weave in their hair? You understand? What are you telling these young girls when you putting so much focus on the outer? You know what I mean? So you coming into the world before you even get to that stage, not even tapping into who you are.
Exactly, bro. I was driving up here, man, and I was thinking about that because I seen that y'all got a new hair salon in the Hill. I'm not gonna say what the name is, but I'm like, wow, like, is this really us? And if it is us, if these wigs and the weave, if this is really us, then we gotta take accountability for what comes with that type of identity. Because even though, you know what I'm saying, like going back to what J. Cole said in the interview, he said we've been rapping the same thing for 30 years. And as I listened to stuff my mom and dad was listening to, Marvin Gaye was talking about let's make love tonight. Then you had the lady in the 80s, like, now her message was still it was still risky, but she was saying, you know what I'm saying, what's the lyric she had? You know, I don't care about them other girls. Just be good to me. Now that still really ain't a good message, but it's better than some way today saying I want to make love to every girl in the world.
But it's transitioning into where we are right now. Where we are nowadays, and I'm thinking crazy for some reason. I've been listening to the OJs for the love of money. You know what I mean? You know, they talk about that music, how powerful. Going back to how we're tying in like music to self-respect. You know, you look at all the singers back in the day were as groups and how they were different. The Temptations were different from the OJs. The OJs was different from the Spinners. But nowadays, I think the young man was talking about how you have 30 different artists, whether they're rappers or R&B singers, they pretty much the same. You know what I mean? They dress the same, they look the same.
Sound the same.
I mean, sound the same. Saying the same little things, just a little bit different. But again, this self-expression, a lot of us not even tapped into who are you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who are you?
Right.
Before you start imitating, back to your point, before you start taking on somebody's persona.
Right.
You know what I mean? Why you got a sleeve of tattoos on your arm? Why are you putting gold in your mouth? That's you, huh?
Right.
Where did you get that? You invented that, huh? Man, I skipped every other two. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Now you got gold caps on every other two. I see it. You know what I mean? Imagine with how that looks, but you came up with that, huh? You know, people have been rocking gold teeth for the last 20 years.
Right.
I'm gonna do it different. So you ain't even thinking about is that you or is you taking somebody else's style and trying to add your little spin into it. But some people would say that's self-expression.
They would. Like, in 2015, being original is taking somebody else's style and adding one thing to it.
Right.
That's like really like that's being original.
Yeah, I freaked it. I'm the first. You misspelled math. You know what I mean? It's M-I. You know what I mean? No, I don't spell math like M-Y. I'm M-I. You know what I mean? Like, but I freaked that. That's how Shawn, you show that you ignorant. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like you said, we'll take one thing, and that's not. But we don't talk about individuality, though.
Right, individuality.
Yeah. I mean, before you start, expressing yourself, you got to realize that you're an individual first.
Right.
You understand? So we don't promote that, man.
And we should, and we should promote individuality. Because going back to your point of being comfortable in your own skin, but some people, even when you look at the Asian culture, which I totally respect them, but they're more of a family-oriented culture. The family's more important than the individual. But over here in our culture, we a little more individualistic. But sometimes you get a slap on the hand when you only think about yourself. So there is like a balance to it.
It has to be. Everything is balanced.
Right. But you like there's power. There is so much power in being comfortable in your own skin. You was telling me about the dude at your barbershop who wear boots. You know what I'm saying? Like, he don't wear Timbs, he wear boots. Like, I never met the dude, but I like that because he's not worried about what nobody else thinks.
No, but that was powerful. Like, young brother, I forgot his name, man, but he came in, he was in high school, young brother, and I'm like, dude, where you from? You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking, you from Texas or somewhere. He's like, no, I'm from here.
Right.
I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm like, really? You know what I mean? Rocking boots, he is like, this is what I like.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
Like, and I'm like, he was like, I catch a lot of flack. You You understand? But I'm comfortable in my skin. Like, this is what I wear. And I'm like, dude, I applaud you for that.
Exactly.
You know, and that's where we, you know, coming back to how we help with that, is that we need to applaud that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because they're catching flack in school, but we as adults, we can help our kids develop or be beautiful or be comfortable in their own skin. Whether your kid is, you know, overweight, not too attractive, hair don't grow, different color eyes, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? We should let our kids know that they're beautiful, you know what I mean? And constantly compliment them, say, hey, you know what I mean? Yeah, baby girl, your hair ain't gonna grow down to your back like so and such. But your hair is beautiful and it looks well on you and you wear it well. Or young man, you know what? You might not be as athletic as Joe Schmo, but dude, you know, you have your own gifts, and I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna help you develop your own gifts. So that's how you be comfortable in who you are. It's really the parents. It's our job in the older community's job to really tell these young people how special you are.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you don't need to look like Beyonce, or you don't need to have a body like Beyonce, or you don't need to be able to rap or play ball like LeBron James.
Exactly.
You're still special. And I respect and love you to who the person you are, you know, and develop your individual, find out who you are, tap into your talents instead of plagiarizing somebody else's.
Ooh. And then on top of that, or with that, I don't want to say top of it, and then with that, educate them and maybe do some research on maybe celebrities. Because a lot of these people who are celebrities were targeted in high school. They weren't the people in the in crowd. So if you do your research on some of these people that you really like and respect, hip hop, you know what I'm saying, cats, singers, actors, actresses, politicians, you know what I mean? You find out that, wow, like whenever they was in high school, they was going through this too.
Same thing, right?
Yeah,
right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And it empowers you, like, you know what, I'm gonna be who I am.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, it takes some time to get to who you are. You can go through some things.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, but as adults, we got to share some of these things with them. You understand? Let them know that life is not gonna be perfect. When you're trying to find yourself, you're gonna go across some wrong bridges that's not good for you to go over.
Right.
So, you know, and that's a part of life with this thing, finding ourselves. But to your point, you don't want to take on somebody's persona.
Right.
You know what I mean? Calling yourself, expressing yourself.
Right.
When you got to figure out first who you are.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
Just a little bit of housekeeping, you know, because of the technical difficulties. Again, thank everyone for keeping their phones on mute. But again, what we started doing, because we're having some issues as we go through the show, we are asking everyone if they can possibly email questions to us regarding tonight's topic or any other topic, but we're talking about self-expression. But you can email those questions to DarnellRamsey at hotmail.com. Again, that's DarnellRamsey at hotmail.com. We always are appreciative of the questions, and we try to get to as many questions as possible as they come across by email.
One of the this next thing I want to get your thoughts on too. It's related to hip hop, but it's really more of a thing about life, sexuality. Because you know, in today's world, you know, there's a whole big, I don't know if I want to call it a movement because it's always been here, but homosexuality, you know what I mean? And I think just in terms of sexuality first is that, you know, talking about heterosexuals, you know what I'm saying, like ourselves, is that you got a lot of men who have been womanizers, and some people like myself, like I said on one of the past shows, I realized that being a womanizer really wasn't even in my household makeup. You know what I'm saying? And I think I said something like along the lines of like, wow, I'm out here talking to all of these girls in high school, you know what I'm saying, and in college. Whenever my dad been with my mom for all these years, my uncles, you know what I'm saying, I never, and even if they was doing something, like that wasn't something that we saw. So what about, you know what I'm saying, like what would you say about the whole sexuality piece?
I think that, they say this go back, you know, historically, you know what I mean, especially as men of color, you know, that's our form of expressing our manhood.
Right, manhood, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then, you know, and TV promotes, you know, our sexual nature.
Right.
As part of our manhood. You know, in the music industry, what do you see in the videos? You know what I'm saying? Like everything is sexual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's nothing left to the imagination.
Right.
So I know they was going back when you read history, they was talking about like if you were a big buck. I mean, if you was a brute guy, they would like breed you like a bull because you had good genes.
Right.
You understand? So you know, you talking about this historically. You know, these men of color, you know, certain men of color, been educated in being over sexual. If I can think of explanation to why we are, and then it's really it's promoted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, whereas it's our form of expression. I want to show you that I'm the man.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So it's a form of self-expression.
You know what, man? I think we had this conversation in the past, you know, and it deals with self-expression. I was watching this this doctor, I think his name was Dr. R.W. Williams, and he was talking about how we live in some, you know, our people's living in a response to slavery. And he was saying that, you know, back in those days, he said, our subconscious mind came out. He said, because there's no way that you could beat down a person to the point where, you know, something not will happen. So he said, after, you know what I'm saying, the man had everything taken away from him, his family, his kids, all he had left was that, like, whenever he would go to other plantations, he would say, yeah, back at the last plantation, I had like 20 kids. You know what I'm saying? So he was expressing himself through his subconscious.
Wow.
And we still living a lot, like you know what I'm saying, on that, even in the rap music. When you come from nothing and we had everything taken from you, I got 6 chains,
Right.
20 cars.
Right.
And this was 100-something years ago.
That's still going on. Powerful.
Ain't that? Yeah.
So we got our first question. Brother Damari, it says, does knowing how to express yourself build character?
Does knowing how to express yourself build character? Well, I think first is that, is there a how-to on knowing how to express yourself? Because I once heard that there's as many solutions as there are creative minds. So is there a how? I would say, is there a how-to, a correct way to go about that? It's a good question, but
That's a great question. I think that one of the things about expressing yourself, character, meaning, you know, confidence. You know what I mean? So you know, I think tapping into yourself shows like some confidence in who you're trying to be.
right.
You know, because you know, self-expression. You know, if it's not what the norm want, it might cause some bullying and some verbal abuse, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I guess that will build character because you understand that now you tap into who you are, that there might be some obstacles to overcome. But that's a very good question.
Let me spit something to that because I agree and I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
Because I think that I kind of would flip it in a way. I would say what you said, but I would flip it and I would say in a way that people who have character would just choose not to express themselves in a certain way. Because everybody know how to express themselves. A baby know how to express themselves when they're hungry. They're gonna yell on the street with all this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Somebody with no character know how to express themselves. They might go out and commit a crime.
Okay.
But if you got character, you're not going to express yourself in certain ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got another question from Lisa from, I guess, DC. How do I get my son to be more of a leader and less of a follower?
I had a case one time, man, and this lady, she kept trying to say she wanted her son to be a leader.
Okay.
Every day was clean your room, do this, do that. Like he only learned how to follow by how you expressing yourself. You know what I'm saying? So like the way that you're expressing yourself around the home is not developing a leader. It's detrimental to him becoming a leader.
Okay. So that's okay. So what you're saying to Lisa's question, that more or less watch how you address or how you talk to him, or I would say pay even more attention to how you interact with his friends as well.
That too.
Because you know, is he when he's around his friends, is he speaking out?
Right.
Or you know, and encouraging him to speak out because he might have things to say. Because sometimes as a young person, you might feel you still trying to develop you still trying to develop who you are. So sometimes if you have a friend who has a strong personality, or a group of friends who have a strong personality,
right.
you might not feel comfortable speaking up.
Right.
So you know, that's the times when you tell your son or tell your daughter, it's okay to give your opinion. And people won't disagree with your opinion, but still give it. We have We have another question by R Dub from North Carolina, I guess. R Dub.
R Dub, what you got, man?
It says, how do I deal with being targeted for being different?
What you think?
I guess that's the thing about bullying. You know what I mean? When you're expressing yourself, when you tap into yourself, and you go against the norm, a lot of young guys and young girls who are not going with the norm, you're going to be targeted. So bullying. I think that sometimes you have to almost expect it.
Exactly. Great answer.
I think sometimes you have to act. You know, when you're different, you got to you got to expect being different.
It comes with the territory. One of the things that I say in my answer to that, one of the things I say in my second book, you know, I say that you will be targeted for your greatness, but that shouldn't necessarily stop you from targeting your greatness. You know what I'm saying? Your greatness will make you a target, but that should not stop you from targeting your greatness.
Oh, got one from Uncle Darrell from Los Angeles.
Uncle D.
It says, young men should dress for the part. If you're going swimming, you should wear trunks. And if it's snowing, you should dress warm. So if you're going on a job review, dress for business, even if it's McDonald's. People in the workplace have gotten too relaxed. So dress to compete with the best. Be a leader like the young man you spoke of wearing the boots. Uncle Darrell, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting that you mentioned that. A lot of times people don't even know how to dress. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like so, whether all the young guys I mentor, whether they're 20s and their 30s, I'm always in teens. I'm always thrown off by people don't even know how to dress for the part.
Right.
So anyway, my niece went on a job interview this past week, her first job interview, and the crazy thing is that she was prepared for it. You know what I mean? That for me, from her mother, the way her mother raised her, to how we talked to her, but I was so proud of her because I know how she presented herself. And the crazy thing is that she went for she's going to be a greeter.
Okay.
In a restaurant. And when she said that, I'm like, wow, because she speaks well, she dresses well. You know, she doesn't have, and I'm not knocking weave, but she just wears natural hair.
Yeah.
She doesn't wear no makeup.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, if I was a hiring manager, I would hire you.
Because she dressed the part.
And she speaks well. And she, thank you, brother, Uncle Darrell, that she dressed the part.
Yeah, man.
And a lot of it, whatever, and he said, whatever, corporate America, I think I just read the paper a couple weeks ago that they want the workplace to be a little bit more lax. They said people dress a certain way, they will act a certain way. And I agree and I respectfully disagree because sometimes, we a little too lax.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's the problem.
Yeah. We take something and run. There's a median.
Right.
When they say lax,
right.
Now all of a sudden, you got the Daisy Duke shorts on.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got the cleavage on. Like this is a corporate setting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Lax might mean a polo shirt.
Right.
Or some cargo shorts, but nah, you gonna run with that.
You wanna express yourself at the wrong time.
Yeah. when Dave Chappelle said, "Well, keep it real goes wrong." You know what I mean? Right. So you up in my organization, and you present yourself to the public, to my customers. You're expressing yourself.
Right.
But that's not what I represent. So that's another thing we talk about self-expression. There are different areas of self-expression. When you're in the workplace, as Uncle Darrell said, when you up in the workplace, you got to wear the uniform in that particular workplace. So is it okay to wear earrings in your nose if you up in the school district?
Man, what you're saying and what Uncle Darrell is, and I love what he says about dressing the part. He was saying, I remember there was some lady came to my high school, and she was talking about McDonald's like Uncle Darrell had said. She said that she was just going to McDonald's just because she needed a job, and she said she was the only one that wore a suit. Everybody else came in like jeans, cut up jeans. She said that the interviewer or the hiring manager was so impressed that he took her to McDonald's University. And I'm like, what is McDonald's University? That ain't no place. And she was like, no, that's an actual place. And she got a job making 6 figures. She had no idea that day was going to change her life. And then I get appalled. I get appalled whenever, you know, when I became a young professional at 21, I would go to these meetings and I would see all of the other young brothers. Nobody had suits. We always wear a shirt and a tie with some dress pants. Everybody else, all the other nationalities, they got on suits. Look at how we, you know what I'm saying, suit. You got to like invest. If anybody who's between the ages of, you know, 21 and maybe 40, invest in some suits. That's just one of my pet peeves, man. Just seeing people at, you know, people my age and your age at the meetings in a shirt and tie. Everybody else got on suits.
I got one last question. This is a great one. It says, do you think schools that require students to wear uniforms or dress codes limit the students' self-expression?
Ooh, that's a great one.
Thank you for that, young brother. That's a great one. I'm a big fan of uniforms.
Yeah.
But kids, you know, that's how they, you know, as you say, during that crucial period when they're 12 to 18, that's when they start to figure out who they self and starting to give the world an idea who they are. So in school, you know, if you're saying, you know what, you're going to wear the uniform, you ain't going to get the opportunity. With that, I like that question. However, you're not in school to be. I mean, you are in school. I mean, you spend the majority of your time trying to figure out, you know, trying to get to know who you are. But you're in school to learn.
Right.
And when you go into certain schools, I like, you know, the schools that, you know, some of these schools that do have uniforms. When you go into certain public schools, you see some.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see some things that are out of order.
And I think one of the good things about it is it shows you unconsciously. Now, you might not be sophisticated in high school, but it shows you that there's a time and place for everything. After school, you can take it off.
That was my point. That you can express the heck out of yourself when you're walking home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you're in school, and unfortunately, kids who are able to express themselves and do what they're supposed to do, get hurt by that. But our schools, unfortunately, because they lack in discipline, you know, a lot of times, a lot of focus is put on the exterior and the clothes more than the education.
Right.
So I know, I think that, you know, we have to find out. I think there should be days in which there should be self-expression day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Gene Friday or something.
Gene Friday, right?
Yeah,
so you give the kids the opportunity, but you in school to learn.
Right.
So, but one of the things we used to get back to your point you were saying. I mean, we're talking about play the part. So I know this is for all my Lincolnites, my LU people who clown me sometime. But I went to school. I was your non-traditional kid. I mean, I went to school in my early 20s. So by the time people were graduating, I was coming out of school. So
I never knew that about you, right?
Yeah. I went out to school when I was 24.
Oh wow, I never.
Yeah. So I used to be up Lincoln, wearing dress clothes and carrying briefcases.
Right.
You know what I mean? But because I'm thinking I'm on a college campus, this is how you conduct yourself.
Right.
So, you know, my Lincolnites is always clowning me about, dude, I remember you used to wear trench coats and wear briefcases. But I'm a grown man.
Right.
You understand? Like, you know, I ain't 18 years old. I'm 20 years old and I'm playing a part. You know what I mean? So that was, they still to this day clown me, but I'm thinking, you know, I'm up on campus. Play the part.
We had a dude on my basketball team, like we called him corporate.
Okay.
That's what we called him, bro.
Corporate, okay.
And he was like 26, but I was actually thinking about this, like now that I'm a grown man, like I'm 3 years older than him. Like when I was 18, we was like, look at this older dude up here, you know what I'm saying? But then his mental, the way he was expressing, like he was more wise than us at the time. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't able to grasp what he was like. You come to basketball meetings in the suit, man, like. We in shorts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's, you know, I guess that's a form of self-expression. But, you know, like Uncle Mary was saying, that this is playing a part.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the irony, and I talk to a lot of my friends who kids are off to college, and my son and my daughter is off in college as well. When I go back to my school, you know, Lincoln University, or when I go to my son who goes to an HBCU, and I'm not knocking HBCUs, but sometimes when you go up on these campuses, sometimes you think like you're in the hood.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I know they're expressing themselves, but, you know, you're on a higher education. You're on a higher learning institute.
Right.
So you should play the part.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not knocking, because I went to HBCU undergrad. I went to a predominantly big university for my master's. But it was a stark difference between the two and how they carried it. When I was up on getting my master's, you would see people in ponytails and cut off shorts and just going to class, backpacks. And when I was in my undergrad, people put actual effort into getting dressed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there was so much emphasis put on material, exterior. So I expressed myself through material instead of expressing myself intellectually.
You know what, that reminds me, going back to the young man's question about schools, like the fact that schools make them wear uniforms, does that limit their self-expression? And then bring that up to pace with what you're saying about college. Think about like the preacher's daughter come to college. Like sometimes if you shelter your kids too much, and then whenever they get on that college campus, and we know about some of the young ladies who we maybe met on college campuses who you can tell they're sheltered because they're not sheltered no more, and you know how they express themselves sexually. You see what I'm saying? So I think that there's always there's pros and not pros and cons, but there's ups and downs and pros and cons to sheltering people. But you do have to, even if you look at some cures, most cures have part of the disease in it. And I always say that to people. People say, "Well, are you saying that you got to get somebody part of the disease?" Symbolically, maybe a little bit, because you got to have the antibodies to fight off against it.
And that's amazing how God put this in the universe,
man.
Like you got to use it, the illness, to cure it. So how do you know that it works? Then if you ain't using a little bit of that, God's a monster. God is a monster in how He do that.
Right.
Wow.
Ain't that deep, man?
Yeah.
But some people don't like that. Some people don't like it. But like you said, like look at how God sets up the world.
And that's crazy because speaking of that, sometimes even with me as a young parent, you're forcing subconsciously, and not even on purpose. Sometimes you're trying to turn your kid into a mini you. Mm-hmm. So you actually suppressing their self-expression
and individuality.
Because you dressing them,
right?
We dressing that young man like you want him to dress.
Right.
What was that?
That's a good point, bro.
Adam Sandler, that movie called Daddy, Big Daddy, or
Big Daddy. Yeah.
Big Daddy. Remember something's called Frankenstein. He used to wear anything you want.
Right.
Remember that movie? And everybody look at that movie like, what is this? It's a comedy, but dude going to school with a strainer on his head and a raincoat,
right,
and some boots,
right. But
I'm looking at that movie like, wow, he let me
right.
He's
showing power in that
self-expression.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like Frankenstein, wear whatever you want to school. And I'm like, wow, that's powerful, man. Like he's teaching him how it's okay to express yourself and be yourself instead of with us. We want our sons in the fattest polo, the nicest polos.
Right.
The Jordans, that's us. Put him in gold chains, baseball hats, that's us. Is that him or her expressing himself, or is that us implementing what we want him to express?
Now let me take that, because I remember when I was the director of this human service agency, man, the Family Support Center. I seen a young mother changing her baby's panties. Pampers, and when she put the Pampers on, and then she put the jeans on, she pulled down the jeans a little bit to sag on the Pampers.
Pampers?
Yeah, this kid was 2 years old. You sagging his jeans on the. Look at how you. This kid don't know nothing about sagging, but you expressing yourself through him. You expressing yourself through him. So that's an excellent. And actually, man, also I wanted to say there was two people that I interviewed one time, man, and they were very. They weren't necessarily affluent people, but they had a lot of character. They were successful in a different way. And I asked them. I said, "What did your parents do to get you to be so confident in yourself?" And they said stuff like, whenever we went to go buy a new car, the kids got to pick out the color. Or whenever whenever we went to the grocery store, we got to pick out what vegetables. And you might not think that that's a great solution, but they had their choice was part of the price. They ain't say I want that Hummer. Now we getting a little Chevy, but you can pick the color.
Wow. So you teach them, buy-in,
right?
I mean, but I'm coming back, do we include them?
Do we include them?
So how can they express themselves when they've been told what to do
exactly
all your life? And I say that, I talk about that, in some of my workshops where tapping into who you are is kind of powerful because you're talking about out the womb, you're being told what to do. When you go off to school, you know, to the young man's point, you're being told what to do. Then you go into the military, you go off to college, you're being told, you get a little bit more independence, but you're told what to do. So during these early adolescent years, are you really encouraged to tap into your self-expression or let the world know, or you just really plagiarizing a combination of people?
Both probably. Probably most people, both. But when I look at it, and again, I know that there's everybody has their own individuality, but we don't know everybody's listening. We don't know the 7 billion people in the world. But when I think about the type of men that I grew up with, and even when I look at yourself, even when I look at myself, like there's a reason why you and I click, because we have a different perception. Like I know I've always been different. Not to say I've been better than people, but when I look at a group, whatever the group's doing, I can guarantee you that I'm not going to be doing it. Whenever I see you around certain people, I can tell that you're different. But we embrace our difference. And how many people you have that don't embrace their difference?
And let's tap into a culture that's telling you not to be different and go with what's normal.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I always tell people, one of the kindest words that people can say to me is that you're strange.
Right.
People are like, what? I love when you call me. If I'm strange, that's about the best compliment, because if you call me normal,
right,
and what I see is normal,
right,
that's an insult.
Right.
So if you say you strange or you different, I'm like, thank you.
I'm doing it.
Right? Because that's what I'm really trying to do, be different. So a lot of times we ain't telling our kids to be different, and also we're giving them their style or what we see on TV. Sagging is cool.
Sagging is cool.
I mean, buying big bulky clothes is cool. How many of us send our kids to school with dress pants, dress clothes? You know what I mean? You go with the norm. You know what I mean? So we, as parents, we're actually their initial teachers to self-expression.
Again, to your point, one of my favorite quotes, and I had to make sure that I said this tonight, is from Muhammad Ali. Whenever he said, "I don't have to be what you want me to be. I don't have to be what you want me to be." And we all know how provocative he is, but you know what I'm saying, like that's how he expressed himself. Like, I don't gotta be what you like. When you look at yourself, like I'm Shawn. Like don't compare me to nobody that I grew up with. Don't compare me to nobody at my job. Don't compare me. Like, I'm Shawn. I don't gotta be what you want me to be. I don't gotta be the angry black man. And, you know, and again, this goes to I was telling you the story about I was at Chipotle a couple nights ago, and I'm just processing everything. And there was, you know, I'm knowing the black dudes in there, some Asians, some Europeans, some white people, and I'm thinking like, wow, like you know, people might expect me to be the angry black man, but I don't gotta be what you want me to be. Embrace your difference. You don't have to be the things that you always talk about, that box. The TV don't define Shawn. The laptop don't define Shawn. But again, it goes. But I also had a very strong upbringing between my dad, mom, uncles, and you always talk about that.
So the box is really pretty much telling us how to express ourselves.
Right.
Understand? So I know we're getting down to the closing. You know, for the parents, most of us have kids. I know you don't have any yet, but I think that really as parents, it's our job to help our kids tap into who they are and actually let them know that it's okay to be an individual. Be comfortable in the skin that you're in. That's our responsibility. We have to. And each household is different because each household has its own norms and values. Right. So first and still, hopefully you got some good values or some good morals within the household. So instill those in your kids. So even when they go out, because all of us are pot gumbo, man.
Right.
All of us.
Right.
You understand? We Malcolm said we are part of all who have touched us. You know what I'm saying? You just want to, as I say, don't plagiarize. You know what I mean? Write your own book. So I can put you in my footnotes. You know what I mean? So as I'm trying to tap into myself, I can take some good from you. I can take some good from this person and put it all in the pot, and that's how I start to develop who I am, or start to begin to develop who I am. But we have to also tap into, or as parents, we have to tap into that side of our kids and let them know that it's okay for you to be different. It's okay for you to take this from a person, but you don't want to plagiarize, as you say. I don't want to be who you are, and I don't want to be
we actually said part of the solution too. I think that we have talked a lot about the solution as well. But when you say I could pick up on, I could take a little bit from you, like parents. What I recommend to parents is that, and even some of the men that I've talked to that were raised with dads, they always tell me like, yeah, I didn't really see a man in my home growing up, but I always liked what Mr. Don did. I always liked what Mr. Vance did. You know what I'm saying? So you can't tell me that you can't pick up on the good things in people that you see that you like. There's some things that you do that I catch myself doing. But because of how much respect I have for you, my uncle or my dad, but I still do it in a way that is not plagiarizing.
Right. And that's what it is. Like you take something from somebody else and you add. And that's expression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You take a good attribute from a person that you respect, and you add your little spin to it.
Right.
And that's what I think that all of us have that opportunity to. And to your point, no matter where you are, no matter what school you go to, or no matter what neighborhood you live in, there's something positive in there.
Right.
You understand?
That's it right there.
And we have to make like that's okay.
Say that again. I'm sorry. Say that again, man.
No matter what school, no matter what neighborhood, no matter what community you grow up in, there's something positive.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope y'all caught that.
But a lot of times that there's so much negativity that you got to put some energy towards that.
Right.
I mean, especially in certain communities, communities that we're working in, the young men that we deal with, the communities they come from. There's so much negativity. There's so much negative images bombarded in their mindset. We have to empower them and motivate them to tap into the positive imagery that's in their communities. But it just have to put forth a little bit more effort to tap into it.
So what would you with the few minutes that we have left, how would you build on that, or maybe what would you say would be some of your final maybe thoughts to people in terms of the solution?
The solution is embrace the differences. One, you understand, be comfortable in the skin you in, and communicate, with the youth about what are some of the things that you not necessarily negatively disagree with, but challenge them on some of their beliefs or some of their ways.
Right.
You know what I mean? And respectfully, don't it's like I said before. Sometimes we try to enforce our expectations on our kids, but challenge them.
Right.
If you're wearing a sag, why are you wearing a sag?
Right.
You know what I mean? Let them explain that.
I like that. I think that what I want to leave everybody with is Dr. Umar Johnson always teaches that you have 4 bodies: the emotional body, spiritual body, mental body, and the physical body. And I just encourage everybody to be careful with what you put into all 4 of those bodies, because you're going to express yourself based off what you put into those bodies. I like hip hop a lot, but I only allow myself to listen to maximum 1 hour and maybe 20 seconds. Because I'm going to get a little more, I ain't going to lie. 1 hour and 20 seconds. You know what I'm saying?
1 hour and 20
seconds. Yeah, every week. You know what I'm saying? Because I noticed that my days are a little bit less productive when I listen to rap. You know what I mean? But when I'm filling my day with T.D. Jakes, Celeste Brown, Tony Robbins, and people like that, I'm much more productive. Be careful what you put into your emotions, your spirit. Because it's going to come out in your physical body.
As a self-expression.
It's a self-expression.
Who you are. And to your point, just to piggyback, I know we got a couple of seconds left, but listen to what your kids listen to. You know what I mean? Watch what your kids watch. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, to your point, pay attention to what you're listening to.
Right.
Pay attention to what you're watching, because it's going to come out, and that's what you're expressing to the world. And your expression may be somebody's negative perception.
That's a great. Your expression may be somebody's negative perception. Oh my gosh. Well, hey man, I enjoyed it. That's very much so. How did the people get in contact with you?
DarnellRamsey speaks.com, or you can email me at DarnellRamsey@hotmail.com. Thank you all once again for tuning into the Good Brothers, Conversations with Good Brothers show. Look forward to seeing y'all next Tuesday, same time. Have a wonderful week and give thanks.
And expand your perspective. Peace. Hey, man, that was